again, fight fans. Welcome back to 10 Count. I'm your host, Michael Montero, joined by Doug Fischer, the editor of Ring Magazine, and Mike Baca of Undisputed Champion Network. At the time we're recording this episode, it's not official yet, but guys, we all have a sneaking suspicion, hint, hint, that sooner or later, probably more sooner than later, Canelo and Golovkin 2, the rematch, is going to be announced. Now, Doug, I was going to ask you who you favor in this fight, but I think your shirt says it all.
No, you know what? You know what? I'm a big Golovkin fan. I got a lot of respect for Canelo, though. And to be quite honest, I do not have a favorite in this rematch. I thought Golovkin won the first fight. Sitting there live, I thought it was really close, 7 rounds to 5. Watching it again, you know, without the audience, without doing a call, actually scoring round by round and looking at the ring generalship and the effective punches and that sort of thing, I had 8 rounds to 4 for Golovkin. Still a competitive fight, but I thought there was a clear winner. It was this dude right here, you know, the middleweight monster. But I think Canelo Alvarez is a sharp dude. He's in his athletic prime. He's 27 years old. He'll be 27, still be 27 on May 5th, I believe. And he learned something from those 12 rounds. And he's been hearing a lot of advice from his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, and his co-trainer slash manager slash mentor, Don Chepo Reynoso, the good folks at Golden Boy, you know, including Bernard Hopkins, an all-time great middleweight. And Oscar De La Hoya, a Hall of Famer, and they've been talking to him, and they said, "Hey, man, you could have won that fight outright if you would have just stayed your ground a little bit, not gone to the ropes as much as you did. You could still do that if you maybe would have jabbed a little bit, take away his jab, worked his body just a little bit more." And he listens to that stuff, and he is somebody who learns and improves fight by fight. And I think the best thing that he learned, and he may have learned it with the previous fight, going 12 rounds with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., in which they fought over 160 pounds, where they both came in at 164, 164 and a half. He felt great being able to train at a natural weight and not use like the last 3 weeks of his training camp as a weight cutting camp. So he was able to spar strong going into like the last 2 weeks, taper down naturally, and I think his stamina was better, and he retained his quickness. I think there's a little bit more on his punches when he weighs in at 160 than when he weighs in at 154 and 155, at least in recent years. So I think that was a big mental hurdle for Canelo. And I think just going 12 rounds and tasting Golovkin's power without tasting the canvas, without being dropped, that's got to give him great confidence. So I think Canelo can make some improvements. The question is, can Golovkin improve on his performance? Can he make the necessary adjustments to win decisively?
Right, Mike, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, based on that first fight, what we saw, who can improve more? Who gave, to me, I saw maybe the best Canelo could do, and I thought that Golovkin left more on the table in that first fight. What can Golovkin do different in the rematch?
Well, I think I speak for everybody in saying that he should have maybe went to the body a little bit more. Now, maybe he and Abel Sanchez know something we don't know, and that Canelo, you know, maybe was looking for that counter. Right. We don't know. But we do know Golovkin's body attack has been, like, it's been the catalyst to all of his success, I believe, along with the jab, of course.
Right.
But it's been that power shot to the body that's really taken something out of his opponent. And we did not see that out of Canelo.
Especially when they slide on the ropes. He kind of wings it sometimes and catches guys sliding on the ropes, which Canelo was doing a lot. Right?
And it is interesting how you mentioned who can improve more. And I agree with Doug. I thought Golovkin won the first fight. I thought it was very close, though, second viewing. I had it 7-5 both times. But it is interesting that Golovkin was the guy that could improve more, even though we knew he won, or we thought he won, I should say. very excited for this fight. I mean, I know that's no surprise. I've said it before even the first fight. This fight needs to be this needs to be a trilogy, I think.
Agreed.
For the health of the sport. We haven't had any of those trilogies yet, at least not recent times.
Well, and certainly not at the heavier weight classes.
No.
You know, 10 years, 10, 15 years
we had the featherweight
back, we had these
going back.
featherweights,
Yeah,
right.
that
we had
round
Barrera
robin.
and Morales
Right.
and Morales and Pacquiao, and we had Israel Vasquez and Rafael Marquez. Those are all the featherweights. I think they fought at their heaviest at 130. So it's been a while since we had. I mean, you know, when Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield were fighting 2 and 3 times during the 90s, that was such a tremendous boost for the sport to see big guys go at it and fight so hard that the public demanded a return match. You know, that does a lot for the sport when it's the glamour divisions, and middleweight is a glamour division. Middleweight historically
division.
is right underneath heavyweight.
Absolutely.
As far as
some of the greatest
glamour and
fighters
attention.
of all time,
Yeah.
and some of the greatest fighters of all time, their best fights, the most memorable fights happened at middleweight,
But
right?
some of the greatest fighters in history who were also the most popular fighters in history and made for the biggest boxing events in history.
And
Middleweight division.
With all those fights you mentioned prior, all of those were wars.
Yeah.
This fight, the second fight, Triple G Canelo, I think it's going to be more action in this fight because they felt each other out for 12 rounds. It's going to be round 13, and in those last 3 rounds of the fight, I thought it was the best part of the fight.
Let me ask you guys a question. You guys have covered a lot of Golovkin fights, as have I, and you've been ringside for a lot of Golovkin fights. Did he appear kind of tight under those bright Vegas lights? That was his first fight in Las Vegas.
I thought so.
He fought pay-per-views before. I mean, he's used to being the main event and a big attraction. This guy sells out arenas, right? But never a pay-per-view event in the United States of this magnitude in the mecca of the mecca of boxing, Las Vegas, against a
the power
bonafide
structure.
super fight. Yeah,
going up
right.
against the power structure.
And also realizing, like, crap, you know, maybe during fight week he's kind of looking around and like, yeah, Golden Boy Promotions, they are the lead promoter here, or like, you know, or seeing the media and like, man, these people are all here for Canelo. You know what I mean? There's a lot of Mexican media representing, and you know, I just wonder when that bell rang if he was a little bit tight, because as great as Marvelous Marvin Hagler is, when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard in Vegas, and Leonard, bona fide superstar, he seemed tight. He seemed tight in like the first 3 rounds,
And then he warmed up.
enabled the more popular fighter to steal those early rounds from him. And
That's what I saw.
I see parallels to Golovkin and Canelo, at least the first 3 rounds.
If you look at the way that fight played out, I mean, the first few rounds, I thought Canelo, you could make an argument, won a couple of those rounds, and then Golovkin got into his rhythm and was really, really bothering Canelo with the pressure. And Canelo
starting
was
with
going
like
to
round
the ropes.
4, right?
Right. And then Canelo, to his credit, made that late push. And that's really, to me, what made it a really, really good fight.
Yeah.
And why I think the rematch, I agree with you, Mike, it's going to be even better. But let's talk about Vegas. Because, again, we don't know for sure at the time we're filming this, but we're going to hint, assume it's going to T-Mobile in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right.
The scorecard with Adelaide Bird. Now I made quite a stink at the post-fight press conference. You guys have all
Good for
seen the
you.
videos.
Yeah.
Everyone talked about it. It was pretty crazy. But
You're the heated reporter.
I'm the heated reporter.
heated.
Yeah. So
Keep the heat on.
yeah,
I mean,
Adelaide Bird. She's been scoring fights.
Sure.
I highly doubt that she's going to be a part of this. But I remember I did a preview piece for Boxing Monthly magazine before the first fight. And I asked Tom Loeffler directly. I asked Abel Sanchez. I asked Gennady Golovkin to his face. Guys, are you worried about the judges? And they all said the right thing. No. We can win a decision in Vegas. But do you think now it's on their mind?
yes. I think Canelo proved to be a little bit better than they expected him to be.
Agreed.
I think
They thought they were going to walk through them.
Well,
Abel
thinking what the majority of hardcore fans in the boxing media was thinking. It was that Golovkin was going to score a late stoppage.
Yeah.
So they weren't they weren't worried about the judges. I mean, if you interview them, of course they're going to say, yeah, we believe we can get a fair decision.
Well, I remember
Abel's
answer to my question was,
judges? We don't need no stinking judges.
That's what Abel told me. He said, we're going to get a late stoppage. We're going to knock him down and knock him out. We're going to hurt him. And I remember telling everybody, this fight's going 12 rounds. No one's getting dropped.
Guys, remember this. Prior to the Danny Jacobs fight, Golovkin had knocked out 23 consecutive opponents. Judges had never been a factor in his, I'm not going to say his entire professional career, but as a world-class, worldwide recognized boxing brand, the judges were not a factor in that. He won by knocking guys out. Judges were an afterthought. So if you're his management, his promoter, I guess they got into a habit of not paying attention of who the judges were because they didn't matter. Well, now they matter. He's getting, he's 35 years old, which is another factor in this fight.
Fighting a naturally bigger, stronger, younger guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to say he's on the slide, but I will say this. I do believe he is plateaued.
I agree.
I do believe he probably peaked physically in 2014, probably peaked as a fighter.
Lemieux.
With Lemieux. October 2015.
Yep.
That's probably him at his best, firing on all cylinders. And there may be diminishing returns from here on out. And I think a factor is the fact now that he's such a big star is that he's only fighting twice a year. And he's a guy who's much better suited fighting 3 or 4 times a year.
Because he loves being in the gym.
He loves being in the gym.
Loves working out.
And he likes that momentum. He likes fighting often. And I think that contributes to his timing and to his sharpness in the ring.
Mike, how might that play into the psychology of the fight for Golovkin and his team, and then preparing them, thinking about the judges now? Because 2 fights in a row, they've gone to distance. You have to assume this fight's going to distance again. You have to game plan for that. Considering what happened last time, and I know people talk about Don Trella's card, I think it was the 7th round, which was an odd round, but look at the whole card Adelaide Bird had. To me, that was much more worrisome.
Yeah.
How might that affect Golovkin in the rematch? And Canelo as well.
I don't know. I'm not in these guys' heads, but I've always loved to know what Golovkin is thinking at times, because he's kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah. Our own Steve Kim sat down with him.
Yes, I was going to mention
for an interview. I think this was this past Halloween, the morning of Halloween, October 31st. And he did the interview in Russian, so he could kind of articulate his thoughts a little bit more. And he was pretty candid. I mean, he was pretty much saying, like, Las Vegas, there's bias there. There's bias for the bigger promoters, and obviously Golden Boy Promotions is one of the preeminent U.S.-based, if not worldwide, promotional outfits. And he does believe that the odds, now he believes, maybe not prior to the first Canelo fight, but he does now believe that the odds are stacked against him if he fights in Vegas. I do believe that he thinks that there's going to be bias shown to the bigger, more prominent promotional company, which is Golden Boy Promotions, the bigger name, which is Canelo's bigger name as Triple G is. Canelo is still a bigger star attraction in North America. And I wonder, and he hasn't come out and said this, but I kind of get the feeling, just listening to him talk, that he sort of feels that there might be a bias against fighters from what was the former Soviet Union, the countries that are in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Like there's a little bit of pushback from the power structure in the United States, the old guard, that either has flashbacks to the old Cold War,
Rocky, the thing right, Rocky IV.
or they're just they feel threatened by all of these talented fighters coming from these countries. Like, hey, we got to put a stop to this. We can't let them just take over or whatever. And
I think you hit on something with the threat.
You can't really prove that, but I mean, I do believe it's in the back of his head.
Well, we've all seen things on social media and in the media, even ringside. I've heard things. The difference now with these fighters coming from Eastern Europe is they're not just fighting here. They're moving here, they're living here, they're training here, and they're creating a power structure here.
Yeah.
You look at what Aegis Klimas is doing up in Oxnard, and I do think that there's a little bit of a threat to the old guard who's run things a certain way. These guys aren't just coming over here to fight as opponents. They're fighting as Americans now. A guy like Sergey Kovalev is an American citizen, resident. I'm not sure which, but he's, you know, these guys are being American now, and I do think that there is a threat there. All things considered, guys, quick, how do you see the fight playing out prediction-wise? I know it's a few months away, but
yeah, I mean, listen, I see a hotly contested fight for 12 rounds. I don't see knockdowns. I don't see a stoppage. I think for now, at this juncture, before the fight's officially been announced, I'm going to stick with my man Triple G. I think he can make. I think you can teach an old dog new tricks, and it's really a case of going to the old tricks. You know, not just relying on the jab, but adding to that jab, going to the body, starting faster. I think that's the key. I think he will. I think he's going to fight with a sense of urgency. He's been there and done that as far as the huge mega event. So, you know, he's going to be used to it. He's going to relish it. And he's a true competitor. He likes the challenge. I mean, he likes the fact that Canelo gave him a fight. He likes the way Canelo fought. He would like it better if Canelo fought him more. And I think that's what Canelo's people are telling him. They're saying, stay in the pocket a little bit more. You've got authority on your punches. You can get respect. You're going to win rounds decisively if you stand for more than just 30 seconds at a time.
Burst.
Stand for a minute. Stand for a minute and a half, and then move around, and then stand again, you know. If both sides make those adjustments, I think we have a better fight. But I still think that even at age 35, I think Golovkin has the better engine, and he's the guy who can work for 3 minutes of a round. I think just by nature, Canelo Alvarez is a guy who gets off in spots. He has a sporadic offense, and I think that'll cost him in a hotly contested fight. So I'll go by like Golovkin by majority or split decision.
I'm going to go the other way on that one. I'm going to favor Canelo in this rematch. I think the experience of fighting Golovkin already is going to help him a lot. I think he's going to learn about his conditioning, how his body works at 160 pounds. One of the reasons why I think he was on the ropes was because he didn't want to tire himself out a little. I mean, he started doing that 4th, 5th round, and I know we were wondering, why is he just staying on the ropes?
He didn't need to.
Maybe he didn't need to, but maybe he did.
It's become a habit, though. I mean, I think fighting at 154 for too long and 155, it's like he didn't have the engine, you know, he didn't have the fuel or whatever to have the legs to not go to the ropes. And he's comfortable doing it.
So I think he's just going to be acclimated better going into this rematch. I'm not too worried about the judging aspect of it. At least not yet.
Well, the world will be watching.
Certainly.
The pressure is on for Vegas to select the right officials, and that includes the referee. And the pressure is on for these officials to be fair and to be good, to know what to do their jobs.
But yeah, majority split for Canelo.
Okay, I mean, it could go either way. Both of you guys.
Pick the draw, man.
And pick the draw.
Hey, well, bet the draw, people.
That's why this fight is so intriguing, because either scenario could play out. It is in Vegas. I agree. The pressure's on Bob Bennett, and that, I believe, compromised the Nevada Commission to get things done a certain way. But there was zero accountability for Adelaide Byrd. She was scoring fights, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks later on a Mayweather Promotions card. Go figure. So my prediction, no matter what decision we get, and I agree it's going all 12, no knockdowns, I do think Golovkin will start faster. I think he'll go to the body. That will bother Canelo. No matter what decision we get, and I think we'll have Golovkin win a split decision. 2 judges will go his way, 1 will go Canelo's way. People on social media are going to bitch and moan and argue, and we're going to get a rubber match. So let us know what you guys think. Comment below. Like, share, subscribe. For Doug Fischer and Mike Baca, I'm Michael Montero. We'll see you next time on 10 Count.